Formula One, F1, racing is a global motorsport that features the world's fastest and most technologically advanced race cars. F1 races are organized by the FIA and consist of a series of Grand Prix events held on racetracks around the world. Here's a detailed breakdown of how F1 racing works. Teams and drivers. Each F1 season consists of a series of races, where teams consisting of 2 drivers compete against each other. There are currently 10 teams and 20 drivers competing in F1. Qualifying. The F1 weekend usually starts with a qualifying session to determine the starting positions of the cars on the grid. The drivers complete a series of timed laps to set their fastest time, with the fastest driver starting from pole position, which is the front of the grid. The rest of the cars are arranged based on their qualifying times. The race. The F1 race consists of a set number of laps, typically ranging from 50 to 70 laps, depending on the track length. During the race, drivers must follow strict rules and regulations to avoid penalties. The drivers compete against each other to be the first to cross the finish line, with the winner being the driver who completes all the laps in the fastest time. Pit stops. During the race, drivers will make pit stops to change tires, refuel, or make adjustments to their cars. These stops are carefully planned by the team to minimize the time spent in the pits and maximize the time spent on the track. Point system. Points are awarded to drivers based on their finishing position in the race. The driver who finishes in first place receives 25 points, second place receives 18 points, and third place receives 15 points. Points are also awarded for the fastest lap of the race and for finishing in the top 10 positions. Championship. At the end of the season, the driver with the most points is declared the world champion, and the team with the most points is declared the world constructors champion. Rules and regulations. F1 racing is governed by strict rules and regulations to ensure fair competition and driver safety. These rules cover everything from car specifications and technical regulations to driver conduct and on-track behavior. Any violation of the rules can result in penalties or disqualification from the race. Parc ferme. After qualifying and before the race, cars are placed under parc ferme conditions. This means that teams are not allowed to make major changes to the cars, except for safety reasons. This rule is designed to ensure fair competition and prevent teams from making last-minute adjustments to gain an unfair advantage. Time limit. F1 races have a time limit of 2 hours. If the race cannot be completed within this time, the race ends as soon as the leader completes the final lap. This rule is in place to ensure that races do not go on for too long and to prevent drivers from becoming too fatigued. Penalties. F1 has a comprehensive set of penalties that can be applied to drivers and teams for various violations of the rules. These penalties include time penalties, grid penalties, and disqualifications. The severity of the penalty is based on the severity of the violation. Weight limit. Each F1 car must meet a minimum weight limit, which includes the weight of the driver and the car. This rule is in place to ensure that teams do not build cars that are too light, which could give them an unfair advantage on the track. Tires. F1 cars use specially designed tires that are optimized for the demands of high-speed racing. Each driver is required to use at least 2 different tire compounds during the race, which can affect their performance on the track. The tires are supplied by a single manufacturer, currently Pirelli. Fuel limit. F1 cars are limited in the amount of fuel they can use during the race. This limit is designed to promote fuel efficiency and sustainability. Cars can also be fitted with a flow meter to ensure that they do not exceed the fuel limit. Plus, how does F1 qualifying work? The session is split into 3 parts. In Q1, all drivers take the track to set the fastest lap time possible in 18 minutes. The slowest 5 drivers are dropped from the session, and will start the race from their finishing position. Q2 repeats the process, but with 15 drivers and in 15 minutes. The top 10 in Q2 progress to Q3, where they battle for pole position in a 12-minute shootout session. The fastest time earns the pole and will start the race on Sunday in first place. Second through 10th place are determined by the next fastest laps. For the 2022 season, drivers will have a free choice of which tires they can use to start the race. They no longer have to stick with the compound they use in Q3. Qualifying during a sprint weekend alters the structure. The session takes place Friday afternoon, replacing FP2. Those results determine the grid for the sprint, where the drivers will race Saturday afternoon for their grid slot for the main event on Sunday. Points are awarded to the top 10 finishers in a Grand Prix. The winner receives 25 points, second place collects 18 points, and third place gains 15 points. An additional point is awarded to the driver with the fastest lap, but the driver needs to finish in the top 10 to collect that point. How much does an F1 car cost? F1 cars are very expensive. They cost millions to create, develop, and race yearly. F1 cars are often created to race for just one season and are given upgrades and new parts over the year to maintain top performance and stay close to the field. The cost of an F1 car varies from team to team depending on their budget for construction and development of new parts. For example, the chassis of an F1 car can cost up to $700,000 while the halo around the driver is around $17,000. The most expensive piece of the car, however, is the engine. A new engine for an F1 car and all its components can cost up to $18 million. In total, an average F1 car costs around $20 million per year.